Hello, my name is Randall. I'm with the Philippines Project. This video is 5 reasons why Western men are retiring to the Philippines, and it's because of the way that they're treated in the West. I read a quote the other day by Elizabeth Elliot. She said, "Stand true to your calling to be a man. Women will always be relieved and grateful when men are willing to be men." The way the West treats men in our society is breaking the foundations of our social structure apart. I really believe this, that people, especially in Western society, have a real struggle with what a man is and what a man should be. I don't think they really understand that much. Cultural changes, they have been at war with the traditional concept of a man being a man. Actually, the culture today kind of wants to destroy what a man should be. And they don't want that man being a strong leader. They don't want him to be even dependable. It seems like they want to make him juvenile. I talked to a guy the other day. He's a subscriber of mine, and he's wanting to move to the Philippines. He wants to meet somebody, and as I'm talking to him, and we're on FaceTime or we're on Messenger, I don't know which, but whatever, I could really sense a feeling of frustration that was so deeply rooted within him. And that's why I want to make this video, because I don't believe this guy is the only one is feeling that same frustration. I believe my audience feels that frustration as well. I have noticed this for years, how the West treats the traditional role of a man. When a man tries to be a man, they get a thankless response from society. Really, men in American culture or UK, you might get glanced at, that's about it. A lot of men in our group, in our generation, we have sacrificed, we have worked, we have put others first. In our retirement years, the children are all gone or are pretty close to being gone. I feel like it's about time that all that sacrifice and all that work that's been done, man, we have a right to at least be treated decently. I don't need somebody yelling at me all the time. I don't need somebody second guessing me all the time. Hey, healthy disagreement in a marriage, that's a good thing. But if every time you turn around you're doing something wrong and she's telling you how you're doing everything wrong and how you're a failure and your ideas are no good and she's the only smart one in the family and they turn the kids against you, why are men wanting to go to the Philippines? I don't know. There may be a clue later on in this video. Also, another thing, marriage and divorce laws still favor women. Marriage is a lose-lose for a lot of, especially younger men. They see it, they're like, why should I marry her? Especially if she's getting money from the government already and she's whatever, why should they marry? And society and the government actually gives women not just an excuse, an encouragement to take money so they don't need a man in their life and they don't need that support. And to me, that's just wrong, and they know it's wrong. The government knows it's wrong. You can't tell me. I'm 61 years old. I've lived in America all my life. I have a set of eyes, I have a set of ears, and I have a memory. I have watched things happen over all these years, and it just seems like the government and our culture is just trying to take men and just grind them under the heel of society and make you an irrelevant part of your kid's life, irrelevancy when it comes to marriage, and I don't really understand it. I think young people sometimes can see the handwriting on the wall when it comes to marriage, and a lot of them just aren't interested in it anymore. That's kind of something of the past. In their mind, that's what it is. Why should you make a commitment to somebody, or why should you make a commitment to a relationship where you never get any respect? You're not valued as a human being. That's a good question. Most of our cultural thought and our teachings and everything that persuades this pervasive nature of the anti or toxic masculinity culture, it comes from the universities, the public universities and private universities, and all across university campuses all across this country. There is an ingrained and deliberate attempt to unseat the man as a traditional leader of a family. Why would you want to unseat a leader? Anywhere. I mean, take an organization, say you have a business and you bought it and there's, leadership in there. You don't have to run the business yourself, but you see leadership and maybe a guy's leading and you just want to unseat him. Why would you want to do that? Well, the only reason I can think of is to insert another leadership right back where you unseated the person, the man that you got rid of. Now, why would a government intentionally go in and root out the leadership of that family and take the man and make him basically he's not needed in the family unit? Why would you want to do that? I ask those questions myself over and over. Modern TV and movies portray men. I've been through this before in my videos, but they portray, unless it's a action movie or a war movie, and even now all the action movies are getting overrun, and every one that was a traditional male role, now they're putting a woman in it. Fine. I don't watch a lot of those movies anyway, but what are they trying to do? They're trying to unseat the male in the culture as a leader in the family. If they can destroy the family unit and destroy that male, then they have more of a free reign to get the masses to do what they want to do. Okay, enough about conspiracy theories and all that stuff. I'm just telling you what I see. I'm just telling you what I see. This woke culture that we live in today, it's like they just teach women, you can do without a man. Go on YouTube. It doesn't have to take very long, or you'll see, maybe a talk show that'll be interviewing some women. And so, I don't need no man. I can go out and do it on my own. Well, men, they're like this, and the only thing I need a man for, well, you know what that is, but there's no good men out there these days. They're taught that they don't need a man in society, and that's just not a good thing. This attitude taught and implemented through the welfare system alone. I mean, those programs since the 1960s have broken more families apart and usurped the role of a man as a breadwinner in the family more than basically anything else that's happened. I don't know why they do it, but they're doing it. But it seems like a direct and coordinated effort to do it. So I looked up on Google, who is a good role model? This is a good example. Who is a good role model for men in society today, or in America? So here was their list. Lionel Messi, I think he's a soccer player, or football, if you're from outside the U.S. He's a football player, and probably a darn good one. And I read a little bit about him, and he's facing some challenges, but he's overcome a lot of things too. And this is not to disparage him in any way, but all across America, in America's history, I wouldn't have thought, or even in history in general, any country, I really wouldn't have thought of him as the role model for men. Let's look at another one. They had David Bowie. I'm talking about the top 10 role models. They said David Bowie, hey, whatever. He did a lot of good things. He was very influential in rock and roll culture. He was, especially in his younger days, he was pretty out there, but he kind of come back, and he's a very accomplished guy. I mean, I'm not going to take and criticize anybody that's successful. He worked hard. I guess he was good with his money. He gave away a lot of money to his kids and to his family and to charities and stuff like that. But if somebody asked me on the spot, said, you got 10 seconds to tell me what's one of the greater role models in history or in Western society, I don't think I would have picked David Bowie right off the bat. He wouldn't have come to mind. And then they put Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is always in there. Yeah, I don't know that much about Tom Hanks, but why these people? Well, Tom Hanks a lot of times doesn't play a very strong man. Lionel Messi, he's a strong man. I mean, I'm probably butchering his last name. I'm sorry if I am. David Bowie, a good guy, but I would think about people maybe, there certainly were no religious people mentioned. There were no big preachers. There were no presidents. Nobody's perfect. I could think of, my dad. When I think about my dad, I think about John Wayne. I mean, my dad has a will of iron. He's going to do what he wants to do, and if he thinks something's right, he's going to fight for it. And to me, that's a man. He had standards that he's not going to go below. no matter what. And that's, to me, is an idea of a man. The idea of a man is putting his family first. That's what my dad did. He raised 5 boys. He worked every day. I had a man one time tell me he was working for me, and he just kind of had a scraggly beard, and he just didn't present himself well. And I said, George, how come you didn't shave? You don't shave. It's just kind of like all scraggly and nasty looking. Look at me now, I'm talking, but I didn't have this back then. He said, well, I'm trying to be he said, I want to look like a man. I said, I'll tell you what a man is. A man is like my father. He gets up at 6:30 every morning. He puts on a suit, he showers, puts on a suit, comes to breakfast or grabs something and leaves and heads to the office. And then you don't see him again until 6 o'clock. And he does that Monday through Friday, and sometimes, most of the time, till noon on Saturday. And he was a hard worker, and he moved up. Why did he do that? Because he had a big ego and he just wanted to impress people? No, he had 5 kids and a wife and a mortgage and a couple of car payments, and it's expensive to live in America. So that's why he did what he did. And he took upon that role himself willingly and put others first before himself. And that way, he can be the leader and the leader of the family. To me, that's a man. But these other ones so far, I don't know why. I really don't know why they brought them up. Not that they're bad men inherently, and probably did a lot of things. But I think of my father more as a man than as compared to these other guys. I mean, my dad had one role. He had a career, but he had a role to be a husband and a father, and he took it very seriously. And there's a lot of you guys out there that have done the same, and I've done the same. And sometimes things just don't turn out too well for us sometimes when it comes to relationships in America. So, lastly, why are men turning to the Philippines when faced with this modern culture? I mean, if you're watching this video, you almost can tell what I'm going to say. But the Philippines culture is a culture that definitely prioritizes the family unit and the traditional family unit, and it's a culture where a man can still be a man and be celebrated in that society. The Philippines has a much more traditional family unit and a culture that still reveres the place that men can have in the family structure. In the West, that's just not the case. Women in the Philippines, they still generally look to men to help in rearing the children, supporting the family. They don't have a social welfare program. There's no government sticking their nose in a problem that men can solve, which is supporting the family, and sometimes it takes 2. But if you just roll back some taxes and not tax the same money 4 and 5 times, maybe that man could support that whole family. Maybe that wife wouldn't have to go to work and go outside the family. I think a lot of this is intentional, but when you come to the Philippines, it's a different place. I mean, you're respected if you're a man. You're just not, it's not like, they're going to go around and just kiss your butt all day long. I mean, that's not what it's about. But at least when you say something, you might actually be heard. They may consider it instead of just knocking your teeth down in the dirt. And it's just Philippines is different. Philippines will accept you. Philippines will be glad you're there. The Filipino women, for the most part, and you have to be a good relationship manager if you come to the Philippines and you want to find a woman there. It's easier said than done, but it can be done, but you also have to use your relationship skills to make that to be a success. So that's about all I've got to say. 5 reasons why men will have it better in the Philippines as they retire. Thanks for watching the Philippines Project.